boys? It's your boy Luke here for our round 3 prize picks targets for the Masters. We're coming in off a 3 for 5 day, which wasn't quite the 5 for 5 that we had on Thursday, but at least we got some money back in. You're not going to win every day. That's the reality with prize picks, and even on a sport like golf where we can really have an edge, can really take advantage of some of the props that we have up there, you're going to have a losing day from time to time. So for the week, with the 7.5x we hit on the first day, that leaves us at a 5.9x value as of right now in terms of ROI, so can't complain there, and looking to try and get back into double digits here for round 3. So in this video, we'll be covering my top 5 props here for the third round and some of the research and some of my thought process going into the third round as well. Just a quick review of some of the props here from round 2. We ended up hitting the over on Colin Morikawa at 3.5 birdies or better. He made 4 on the day. Also the unders on Cam Smith greens regulation. We had him at 13. He went well under that. Also Joaquin Niemann at under 12.5 greens regulation. He also ended up going well below that. Our 2 misses was first Rory McIlroy, who only had 3 birdies on the day. We did have 3.5. Had a few lip outs, so that was a little bit disappointing. And our last miss was Brooks Koepka, and he was the real miss that we had. The one guy who went out there and didn't have a very good day at all. And really, you're going to have those from time to time, but that Rory miss is really the one that stunk because it took us from a 0.4x to a 2x value if he came through. But putting that aside, I can't complain about a winning week so far. Let's go ahead and try and build on that here for the third day. Alright, on the board you can see the data golf page for the Masters, and just a quick review of round 2 where you can see the scoring average was well above par. In fact, 2.61 shots over par. Now something to remember is that there were plenty of amateurs in the field, also some of those past champions of the Masters that went out there, shot 7 or 8 over par today, and even guys like Matthew Wolff that are so out of form. Bryson DeChambeau fits that same type of build. I shot 7, 8 over par that heavily skew this type of average. If we take a look at the guys playing in the afternoon, which were a majority, a lot of the guys playing well. A lot of the guys that shot 7, 8 over par were playing in the morning today. You see the scoring average was closer to 2.3 shots over par. So I would expect the scoring average, even with some blustery conditions for tomorrow, to be right around 2 strokes over par rather than the 2.6 number that we saw. Just the higher quality field, a lot of the players that weren't in the best form have now been cut out of the field. And now just touching on the weather, because it's also going to be something that we have to keep an eye on, because just like on Friday, we're going to have really windy conditions. First off, in the morning, right around 9 a.m., you're going to see it spike up from right around 7 miles an hour to 12 mile an hour sustained winds. And throughout the day, you're going to have 12 to 16 miles an hour of sustained winds, which isn't anything crazy, right? You'll get that in Florida, Texas weather, I guess from time to time over here in Georgia as well. But the real problem is the wind gusts. Down here, we have 20 mile an hour wind gusts for the entire day. Now, at most golf courses, if you had just wind gusts of 20 miles an hour, that wouldn't be all that much of an issue. But the reason why the scoring average was 2.6 shots over par is that Augusta National is heavily tree lined. And as a result, trying to feel the wind, trying to get a gauge for its distance when it's changing direction so much as it will through a forest is next to impossible. You pretty much have to just guess on the wind sometimes, unless you have a flag or some type of way to actually see the wind on the ground, which is going to be rare around this track. So that's why at holes number 12, you see so many people hit it in the water. Hole number 13, 14, where you're also dealing with some of the heavier areas of the forest, you just get fooled. You look like a complete idiot at times when it comes to your shot selection. So I would expect it to be difficult, but like I said, because some of those lower tier players are out of the field, you're going to see at least a little bit of a better scoring average. But don't let that fool you. It's still going to be extremely difficult out there. So with that being said, what props am I taking a look at here for the next round? And the first category I want to touch on is going to be birdies or better, where I'm taking a look at a few overs and also an under that I have my eyes on. But let's start with the overs, the guys that I am expecting to play well tomorrow. It's going to be 3 guys at 3 birdies or better. It's going to be Tyrrell Hatton, Matthew Fitzpatrick, and also Webb Simpson. So let's go ahead and start at the top with a Tyrrell Hatton, who has been known as a solid player in windy conditions, one of the best hard condition players that we have. He won at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's from England, played on the European Tour for quite some time, was able to take down some of those blustery tracks. You've seen him have success at a few major championships, and year in and year out, when we get conditions where par is going to be a good score, you see Tyrrell Hatton rise to the top. And in general, he's a solid putter. He's also one of the best players in the world when his approach play comes around. And for round 3, where he's kind of hanging around, you know, he's 1-2 over par. He's just 5 or 6 shots off the top 5. I'm expecting him to go out there in moving day and have a really solid round. So at 3 birdies or better, he gives us a ton of leverage there, or a ton of leeway for the push. Of course, a lot of these players are going to end up with 3 birdies on the day and end up pushing for us. But on a prize picks card where we have 5 legs, that's not the end of the world. If we have 1 or 2 pushes, we end up with the 3 for 3 or something like that. Now, it's not going to be a 12.5x parlay like we have down here. It's still more than enough. So I like the safety that we have with these guys at 3. Let's talk about Matthew Fitzpatrick. Much like Turahan, also really used to these windy conditions. He's from England. He's, of course, grew up in these type of conditions. And in general, Matthew Fitzpatrick is extremely consistent. He's going to hit almost every single fairway. He's very consistent at hitting greens in regulation. And he just needs that hot putter to come around to really make birdies in bunches. And over the first 2 rounds, hasn't really had that hot flat stick, hasn't been able to have that many putts drop. But if we take a look at his historical numbers, what we've seen over the last year for Matthew Fitzpatrick, he's one of the best putters in this field. So I'm expecting that to turn around at some point here. And if it ends up turning around here in round 3, he could easily put up 5 or even 6 birdies. That's how good the ball striking has been to this point of the week. Just needs that flat stick to turn around. So definitely like him there at 3 birdies. Also somebody who you get that safety net there at the 3 for the push. Lastly, the last guy I'm taking the over on here is going to be Webb Simpson at 3 birdies or better. Much like Turahan and Webb Simpson, he's also, not Webb Simpson, and Matthew Fitzpatrick, he's shown a lot of ability in the past to play in these windy conditions. He's won at a U.S. Open. YLI, a couple of these other courses like the Wyndham Championship where you get windy conditions through tree-lined fairways, much like what we have here at Augusta National, he's had some success. So I like a lot of that correlation. I also like the fact that he's a solid putter, has been slowly returning from injury over time. And in general, this is a top 30 player in the world, right? Webb Simpson at one point was winning 2 to 3 events every single year, is really an elite of the elite level player. And even though he can't win at every golf course, this isn't that type of a track where it's 7,800 yards where it's going to take Webb out of play. He has more than enough length for around Augusta National, particularly if it plays firm and fast over the weekend, like we could very well see. So I like him there at 3 birdies. Like the other 2, you get that safety net at 3 birdies. So certainly something that I'll be targeting here for this slate. The next prop I have my eyes on is going to be Sergio Garcia, the under at 3.5 birdies or better. Now, the difference between Sergio and these other 3 players, the reason why I'm taking the over on these 3 and the under on Sergio, of course, the hook for Sergio, 3.5 gives us many more outs for the under. 1, 2, or 3 birdies ends up hitting for us, but even more importantly, he's not a solid putter. He's also a high ball flight player, somebody that launches those irons up into the air, somebody who, of course, can really struggle with the flat stick from time to time. So even if he has it with the ball striking, he can go out there and give himself opportunities. It is not a for sure thing that he actually goes out there and cashes those in. So at 3.5, I'll be taking the under there. Somebody who the ball striking is immaculate, right? Of course, out of the guys on this list, he's one of the best ball strikers, but he's also probably the worst putter on the list. So I'm not sure if he's actually going to cash in and all the birdie opportunities that he'll need, particularly if the scoring average is going to be 2.6 shots over par. And now lastly, the other fade I'm going with, of course, by taking 3 overs and then the 2 unders here. An over for strokes, by the way, is counted as an under. That's why we're able to get to the 12.5x parlay here. It's going to be Patrick Reed at 73 strokes. He's somebody who's coming in with horrible recent form. On day 1, shot a 74. Today was actually a little bit better. Shot a little bit better in terms of shots gained to the field, but the recent form really tells you everything you need to know. He's coming in just not hitting the ball very well. He's losing a ton of strokes off the tee. The approach play has been extremely inconsistent, and even the best part of his game, the short game around the green, also on the greens with the putting, he hasn't been top 10 in this field, which for Patrick Reed to be even remotely competitive, he's going to have to be a top 10 short game player. In fact, when he's playing his best golf, he has to be the best short game player in pretty much every field that he's in. So if he's not going to have those typical strengths that he usually has week in and week out, if he's coming in with bad recent form, if we get him at 73 strokes when the scoring average is likely to be at least 2 over par, count me in, right? He's somebody who I'm considering as a below average player in this field, at least based on the recent form that we've seen. And as a result, I have him projected for nearly a 74.5 score. So a clear 1.5 strokes over the number there. And by taking a fade stance on somebody like a Patrick Reed, it also opens the card up to even more value. So fading Patrick Reed, also like fading Sergio Garcia there. And of course, the 3 guys that I'll be tailing trying to go after, hoping that they can make some birdies, are going to be Trailhand, Webb Simpson, and Matthew Fitzpatrick. That's all I've got for the Prize Picks preview. Before you go on and get out of here, first off, make sure you like the video. I'd appreciate that a ton, but also make sure you let me know what your favorite prop on the board is, whether it was something I mentioned or completely off my radar. I'd love to hear from you guys down below. And as always, going to have even more content coming for round 4, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already as well. That way you don't miss any of that content, of course, for round 4 and all of the golf tournaments to come. I'm not just covering the Masters. I'll have you covered for every week on the PGA Tour schedule, for Prize Picks, DFS, for course breakdowns, everything you need to know in the PGA Tour sphere. I appreciate all the support, guys. Again, let me know your favorite prop on the board, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the round 4 preview.